Eyes wide open. The dark heart of Appalachia, where whispers in the woods don't always stay behind when you leave. Some say the forest watches, others say it follows. And sometimes something deep within those mountains decides you're the one it wants. Don't forget to subscribe for more chilling mysteries. Now let's take a look.
Okay, I was only supposed to be gone for like an hour, and I don't know where I'm at. Turned around, staying at a cabin. I know on the information. Hang on, Rainier, don't go too far ahead. They said like the neighbors weren't really friendly. And I don't. Okay, I'm gonna like turn the camera off and try to get out of here because this is clearly somebody's house and don't know where I'm at. Okay, now it's raining, the sun's setting, and the mud's really slick, and I'm still lost. Okay, so it's raining way harder. Sun is set. Don't have my headlamp. I guess I can use my phone. Okay, I think I know where I'm at. Like, I do. I don't have a whole lot of battery left because I didn't expect to be gone this long. I keep hearing something up in the trees. I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure I can see the cabin. I don't know. I just keep hearing this noise up there. I'm just gonna try to. Okay, I see the cabin. Okay, I'm just trying to get in. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, it's still outside. Okay. All right. There's something out there. I'm just trying to like get the door shut, get in here. My dog's going crazy. There is something out there. It's okay. Rainier. Shh. It's okay. Shh. Shh. Rainier. Oh, God.
All right, so I live in the Appalachian Mountains, and if you've heard anything about them, it's probably this.
Search area has expanded as the days stretch into a full week since the youngster was reported missing.
If you hear something in the woods, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't. Keep walking. You do not want to be outside when the sun goes down.
Something very strange seems to be going on inside of national parks.
Lately, I've seen these videos all over social media talking about the long history of people vanishing on the Appalachian Trail and in the mountain range that it's named after, and what might be causing those disappearances. Secret National Park Service projects, feral cannibal people, Bigfoot, skinwalkers.
You're usually hunted for a long time by these creatures.
They're called devil monkeys.
Bigfoot is from the Pacific Northwest, and skinwalkers are from the Southwest, but that's beside the point. These mountains have a rich history of folklore, and it can be really interesting to get into that, but these videos can often disrespect the people who have gone missing in these mountains and people who live in them.
It details their experience with the mountain people.
Feral, rumored to be cannibalistic men that lived in East Tennessee in the woods.
Generations of people who have grown up living in these caves of national parks.
Most people think of the Appalachians as this area in the south, but they actually extend all the way up to this tiny island off the coast of Newfoundland called Belle Isle. You've probably heard that these mountains are some of the oldest on Earth. The first explorers to cross the mountains describe an infinitely complex landscape of steep slopes choked with dense vegetation and days of darkness under the canopy above. Even Daniel Boone, who's like the Appalachian explorer guy, described the slopes as, quote, so wild and horrid that it is impossible to behold them without terror. There's also just a spooky vibe here. We know that the mountains are old, but you can also just feel it. The boulders, the twisted trees, the fog. It can be a bit eerie. It's honestly not that surprising that people think this is a creepy place where weird stuff just happens all the time. It's a place with a unique, and I'll be the first to admit, sometimes quite off-putting culture and centuries of folklore. But that doesn't mean there are cannibals or skinwalkers hiding in the caves, kidnapping unsuspecting hikers.
But the creatures and legends are only half of the story. The Appalachians have another unsettling reputation, one that's not based on folklore, but on cold, hard, uncomfortable numbers. People vanish into thin air in these mountains at a rate that doesn't make sense or sit right with anybody. And it's not just tourists wandering off, and it's not just accidents either. It's the patterns connecting these disappearances that really bothers people. I'm talking experienced hikers that know the area disappearing within sight of the marked trail. Campsites left perfectly intact, like food still out, gear untouched, like someone just stepped away for just a second, but then never returned. Search teams reporting sudden pockets of total silence, like the forest just sort of shuts off. dogs refusing to track a scent that they were just following moments earlier, weather drastically changing within hours of someone vanishing, and radios cutting out only in certain areas, then turning back on like nothing ever happened. Locals will tell you the same thing in 100 different ways. The mountains take who they want. Some areas have higher clusters of vanishings than others, and these spots people try and avoid after dark, or avoid entirely. And the weirdest part? A lot of these disappearances happen in places where there should have been plenty of witnesses. Places like overlooks, shelters, popular junction points. It's like they're slipping between the trees and disappearing into thin air. This is where the Appalachian Trail gets dark. In 1969, a 6-year-old boy named Dennis Martin vanished in seconds. 1 minute, they're playing hide and seek, and the next minute, adults are looking behind the tree where little Dennis was hiding, but there's nothing. Dennis is just gone. Search teams flood the area. But here's the really weird part that majority of people just seem to gloss over. The Green Beret showed up for search and rescue. Not park rangers, not local authorities, although they showed up too, but the Green Beret, y'all. And according to Dennis's dad, they ran their own operation, entirely separate from everyone else's. And they wouldn't share information. And they refused to explain why they were even there. That's not suspicious. Now, in case you don't know, that's not normal for a missing kid. In a national park. Not at all. When Dennis disappeared, a nearby family reported hearing a scream, followed by a, quote, dark, upright figure running through the woods holding something over its shoulder, end quote. Rangers and local government, though, shut that claim down immediately. And unfortunately, Dennis Martin has never been found. Then, in 1976, we had the disappearance of Trenny Gibson, who was a 16-year-old on a school field trip. She stepped off the trail for maybe 10 seconds, and all of a sudden, she's gone. Nowhere to be found. Dogs begin tracking her scent perfectly, and then it just stops. Not fades, not scatters, stops. Like she was physically lifted off the ground. No clothing, no remains, no signs of any struggle, nothing. The FBI showed up, but quickly and quietly backed out when the trail suddenly went cold. Locals still insist that the whole case feels sanitized, or cleaned up in a way. Next, we have to talk about the couple at Clingman's Dome. First off, Clingman's Dome is a huge tourist spot with people everywhere. Despite this, a couple goes for a quick hike at Clingman's Dome, and they both disappeared without a sound. The Park Service then shuts down multiple sections of Clingman's Dome for days, which, by the way, is extremely rare and unheard of. Yet, they offer zero public explanation as to why. That's sus. Rangers supposedly found, quote, items that didn't make sense for an animal attack. Translation, whatever that happened wasn't a bear, wasn't a fall, wasn't normal. And no bodies were ever recovered. Then we have the time loss hiker. This refers to a story of a solo hiker who heard someone calling his name from the woods, in his brother's voice. Problem was, his brother wasn't with him. He said he stepped off the trail, blacked out, and woke up 14 hours later, barefoot and miles away with absolutely zero memory of what happened or how he got there. This exact pattern shows up again and again in Appalachia. Voices that mimic people you know, time missing, and memories wiped. Lastly, we have to mention the unidentified woman. She was found barefoot, dehydrated, scratched up, and aimlessly wandering down Fire Road near the North Carolina portion of the Appalachian Trail. She kept repeatedly mumbling that she followed a voice that sounded like someone she knew. Now, no official report was taken, and park rangers kept it quiet and under wraps, but the locals kept note of it because they said that it wasn't the first time that someone came back different. Which, gee, that's fun. After diving into all those disappearances, the sudden vanishings, the lost time, the people who just step off the trail and are just gone, you start to notice a pattern. A lot of these cases sound exactly like something hikers have been quietly talking about for decades, and they call it the flicker. It's not a cryptid, it's not a ghost. It's more like the forest shifting, just for a second, like the whole world blinks wrong. And once you hear these stories, the disappearances start to feel a little less random. One woman said that she stepped into a clearing that felt wrong. The air was warm, even though it was like a cool 50 degrees on a fall day. The trees looked like they were vibrating, like they were covered in heat waves, except for there was no heat. She stepped back, out onto the trail, and realized that hours had passed, even though she swore that she had only been like in the park and hiking for 1 hour total. Apparently she was standing in that field for hours, but it felt like moments to her. Another hiker said the entire forest around him glitched. The trees doubled like a skipped video frame. He blinked and everything snapped back just as quickly as it had originally freaked out. But he was all of a sudden standing a few feet from where he remembered standing. Like it, like time shifted him, or like he went through a portal like a couple feet over. I don't know. Weird. Someone else reported walking through a fog wall that came legit out of nowhere. He said it felt like he was wading or like pushing through very deep water, thick and heavy. And when he finally came out the other side, the sun was in a totally different position in the sky. He checked his phone later on, and it was time-stamped on his clock nearly 3 hours ahead of the current correct time. And these aren't like rare or one-off stories. They're not even whispers or secrets at this point. They show up in online forums, ranger logs, and random hiker conversation, and always described the same way. A moment where reality feels thin, a slip, a blink, a flicker. People walk into these moments and time doesn't behave normally, so they come out disoriented, or not at all. And when you combine this with the vanishings and like people disappearing without tracks, without sound, without any signs that they ever even left the trail, you can start to see what people mean when they say that the mountains themselves take people. And that's the implication here. Sometimes in these thin places, the world slips, taking the person, not their belongings, with it. I don't know about you, but after hearing that, the idea of people vanishing without footprints, without a sound, and without a trace suddenly doesn't feel so impossible anymore. But hey, maybe that's just me. We have to, of course, also talk about the government piece that no one really seems to want to talk about. The rangers won't talk about the missing people, that's for sure, like at all. Sections of the mountain are fenced off, locked, or marked as off limits, and not just for like regular safety concerns like you would assume. Some of the areas sit over massive underground cave systems and old mining tunnels that no one outside of a select few have ever seen. At least, like in the past few hundred years or so, anyway, that is. Some of these caves are completely sealed, and there are tons of reports of equipment being left behind as if someone just walked away, never to return. People have reported drones or strange unidentified lights hovering in the area and following them at night, even in no-fly zones. But when they try to track them, they completely vanish. Military vehicles have been seen entering forest roads that are marked as closed. And not for typical reasons like logging or surveying the land, but to allegedly move heavy equipment into spots that they don't want hikers knowing exists. There are even whispers from locals about government experiments with remote sensing capabilities, or electromagnetic tests in some of the higher altitude locations of Appalachia. Locals swear that they've seen personnel in camo with strange high-tech devices moving through the forest, near places where the weirdest incidents happen. I'm not saying that they know something. I'm saying they act like they know something. It's almost like someone left a door open for the forest to just like do its thing. And they don't want anyone knowing what truly happens deep inside of it.
Okay, so I'm going to try to make this experience story as quick as possible because there's a lot of details and a lot that goes on. First off, this happens in Murray County, Georgia, back in 2008 on Halloween night. Me, my husband, and 2 other family members decided to go four-wheeling that night because our kids was staying with my sister-in-law. She took them trick-or-treating. So he gave us the night to go have some fun. And we wanted to pick an activity that was holiday appropriate. So what do we choose? We choose to go trail riding in Grassy Mountain at Rocky Flats. And if you're from Murray County or the area or know anything about Rocky Flats and Grassy Mountain in general, Grassy Mountain has got a lot of whispers and rumors for a lot of sinister, dark things that go on. Why we chose Halloween night to go trail riding, I have no idea. I don't know what got into us. We were so pumped. We were fueling on energy drinks and we was like, oh, let's go see what we can get into. It's Halloween night. Let's go do something spooky. Boy, we did not know what we were getting ourselves into because this was the most terrifying night. It was in 2008 and still to this day, when I talk about it, it makes my pulse race. It still gives me anxiety to think about it because this video is not going to do justice what we experienced, but I'm going to do the best I can. Okay, so we went trail riding up at Rocky Flats in a Toyota 4Runner. So we're going through the woods and everything is fine. Now note, this place is pitch black dark and it's in the middle of nowhere. So if we get snake bit, attacked by an animal, get into a wreck or something even crazier, there's no help coming. There's no cell phone service. There's nothing. You're completely on your own. It's almost like a wrong turn kind of situation. I'm serious. Okay. So we're trail riding and it starts out fine. You know, it's awesome. You know, it's cool weather because it was one of those kind of warm Halloweens. Not like tonight. Tonight's a little chilly, but this one was a warm Halloween. So we're trail riding and everything seems fine. You know, we're laughing, cutting up, listening to some music, just talking, you know, just some mid 20-year-old people just having a good old time. Okay. So, like I said, we're just riding through and the trail ends at one point, but we hadn't got there yet. But along the way, me and my husband were noticing little baggies hanging on the trees. He turned and looked at me. He said, "Have you seen what I've seen?" I was like, "Yeah." You know, and me and my husband know what that means. And some of y'all may. Don't ask me how we know. We just do. But we didn't say nothing because the people we were with don't really know what that means. We do eventually end up explaining it. But for people that don't, when you see little white baggies hanging on trees, especially in a place that's known for satanic and witchcraft rituals, it's not a good sign. So as we're getting to the end of the trail, we get to the end of it, and our driver, he stops and he's puts on the brakes and he's like, "What is that?" And he points up in the trees and he asks my husband, he goes, "What is that in the tree?" He goes, "Is that what I think it is?" He said, "Oh yeah, that's a chicken head and a chicken foot and little baggies probably with their organs in it." And he's like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "What the heck is going on out here tonight?" He goes, "I don't know, but we need to go." And then I tap on his shoulder and I pointed ahead of us. I said, "Look, there was a stump with a pitchfork looking stick in the middle of it. And there was baggies around it." Okay. So we told them, we said, "Look, this is more than we were bargained for. I think we stumbled upon something going on in the woods that we didn't want to be a part of." So we said, "We need to get out of here." And he's like, "Yeah, you're probably right." And note, this whole time, we didn't mention this to them, but I could feel like something was watching us. My hair kept standing up on the back of my neck and my arms. It was freaking me out really bad, but I didn't want to say nothing because I didn't want to ruin the night. So as we're turning around to get back out, we're a little sketched out, but as we're turning around, he slams on his brakes again and he's leaning out the side of the car and we're like, "What are you looking at?" And we all look back. The biggest diamondback rattlesnake I've ever seen. I swear this thing, hold on a minute, let me give you an example. This thing was like this big around. It was huge, and it was at least minimum 7 foot long. Minimum. This is the biggest diamondback rattlesnake I've ever seen. Okay? It was coming out of the woods at us very fast. I don't know if it was running from something, or was it running after us? Halloween, sketchy forest known for witchcraft and satanic worship. And here comes a big giant snake. It seemed a little coincidental to me. And I don't believe in coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. Everything has a meaning. So we're like, okay, we need to go. We need to go now. So we're trying to go. And instead of going off in the woods, pardon my French, this damn snake starts chasing our vehicle that we're in. I'm dead serious. We're riding through the trail and this thing is staying behind us. So eventually he's like, I've had enough of this. He puts on the brakes. He don't get out of the vehicle. He leans out with his gun and he shoots it in the head. Now that does work and it stops it. And at the moment he shot this thing, I heard rustling up on the hill because there's a hill beside us up on like a little ridge line. And immediately, as soon as he shot that thing in the head, I heard rustling and I shot to the right. And his wife that was in the back with me, so did she. And we were like, "Y'all, we need to go. There's something on this ridge line beside us. We can hear it rustling." And it was just the eeriest, creepy feeling when you know something is watching you. It was so creepy. So we're like, "Oh, we gotta go. So he is running through these trails, just up hills, down hills, bunny hopping and just we're like holding on for dear life. I mean, he was running out of there as fast as he can. Then all of a sudden he slams on the brakes and we're like, oh my God, he slung every one of us forward and everything inside the vehicle. We're like, what are you doing? He goes, y'all, we got a problem. We're like, what are you talking about? And we all look ahead. There is a tree, and I mean a big tree, laying across the road. Now, it could have simply failed. That would be the logical thing you would think. But when we took the spotlight and shined it at the end of it, it was perfectly cut, like somebody cut it with a chainsaw. But the funny thing is, we never heard a chainsaw running. But yet there is this big giant tree laying across our path. The only way to get out. There's one way in, one way out. And this was our way out. And now there's a tree laying here. And we're hearing rustling all around us. Something was trying to keep us in these mountains. So he tells us, he says, y'all hold on. He's like, oh God, what are you going to do? And he goes, and at the time, we kind of laughed or snickered, but now I think about it, I'm like, he said, I'm going to Dukes of Hazzard this. So he backs up, puts in 4-wheel drive, and he just slams the gas and climbs over that thing, and we bounce up and everything goes flying, and we haul butt out of there. Okay, so we think, oh, we're okay, we're all in the good, we're out, we're past that, we're good now. So he's loading up his 4Runner on the trailer that he brought in, that he carried it in with, and we're getting all of our stuff together and getting our clothes, knocked off with dust and all that, getting everything together to get in the big truck that we brought us there. And there is this really big cliff right in front of us, and you can look up at it, and there's like a really big drop off. It's probably at least 50 foot, maybe more drop off. There is something on the ridgeline walking back and forth. You can literally see the trees moving back and forth. I don't know if it was an animal. I don't know if it was a person. I don't know if it was something else. But there was something up there watching us. It'd been watching us since the moment we entered. That is the most terrifying I've ever been. We all got in the truck and we got out of there. Well, by the time we got back to the foot of the mountain, the family member we were with, he had a bunch of missed calls from a friend of his that said, hey man, I don't know what you're doing tonight. He goes, but don't be in the mountains. Whatever you do, don't go to the mountains tonight. Don't be in the mountains. Send him a bunch of texts. Don't go to the mountains. Don't go to the mountains. Stay out of the mountains. Don't be nowhere near the mountains. That's all he said. So I don't know what the hell was going on in them mountains. Pardon my French again. But we were nearly mixed up in something that we may not have walked out of alive. So for future warning, do not go in Grassy Mountain on Halloween. When you go there, period, be careful, but don't go there on Halloween. Mark my word, don't go.
When I moved from the San Francisco area to Georgia, it was a big change, just the northern part of Georgia. And as some of you know, the Appalachian Mountains also has a lot of stories of scary stuff, creepy stuff, and just experiences that people had to that whole mountain range, right? My grandpa's house was very big when we moved there and had a lot of land, had a bunch of acres, a lot of trees, bunch of trails, a bunch of stuff like that. There'd be trails that would pop up out of nowhere that I've never seen before. I don't know, but I just remember us finding trails that were never there, and we still do to this day. We would find shrines of it would be tree stumps, but shrines everywhere. And then we'd go far into the woods and stuff, and then we'd find skulls of goats and animals and stuff. Sometimes they'd be in it, they'd be on a tree, or they would be in the shrines, which is really weird. What was also weird is that there was a truck that was on a tree. The tree grew through the truck, and the truck was up here. So we could look up and you just see a truck and a tree through it. I don't know. It was really weird. But especially at night, I would see stuff. And I do remember my parents saying that they see stuff at the house all the time or hear stuff. I remember me and my friends seeing random smoke coming from the ground. And then I remember seeing people that were walking around the trails that just disappeared. I remember there was one time that me and my friend saw a naked guy in the woods too. We ran home. I remember telling his parents. Parents didn't believe us and stuff, so that was kind of annoying. But I still remember that that image in my head of that. There's also a time where downstairs there's these two doors that would that you could open to go outside or whatever. But it was really weird because it was extremely windy, and then my dad was next to me sleeping, and then the doors opened and swung open and slammed, and my dad woke up screaming. And my dad told me that he had a dream that somebody was coming in there to hurt us, and that he woke up screaming. So he saw the person walk through the doors in his dream to open the doors, but then the doors opened because of the storm. Freaked me out. Sometimes we'd hear people talking. They're not there. There was one time where me and my friend were waiting for my friend to come, and the woods got completely silent. And I already knew what that meant because I learned about that. The woods got completely silent. And I looked at my friend and I was like, what the f-? And then the bushes and stuff, it sounded like something was moving through the bushes around us because we were in the driveway. There was sounds of something moving in the bushes and stuff. One was right here, one was behind us, one was this way. And then I remember a wind just started picking up really quick, and everything got all intense, and whatever was back there was moving, and me and my friend were looking at each other all freaked out. And all of a sudden my friend got there and he speeds into the driveway all crazy, and then all of a sudden it just stops. Obviously, I'd like to exploring stuff, but I never went by myself. I always like exploring places with my friends and stuff. And I remember going at night one time, and literally, I swear, all of us stopped and looked, and we could barely picture something standing there that we couldn't see, but it looked like a person. But it was standing there looking at us, and it was walking closer to us, but really slow. And it didn't it looked like a shadow walking towards us, and we ran through the bushes and stuff like that to get to the other side. But the weird thing is that sometimes when we'd get freaked out or we try to leave, the trails would it's we completely forget the trails. We would get lost and go in circles and circles and circles. And one time we were stuck in there for hours, walking through those trails. It's we'd go to one trail, then we think we're going back, and then all of a sudden we're way farther than we were. Even though there's I don't know. I think that I don't know if the area just messes with people's heads or something or whatever, but it's we couldn't get out of the woods. We'd go far into it. Even though we remember how to go back, we'd try to go back, we'd end up somewhere else. It's we kept getting stuck in there. So me and my friends would always have 2 or 3 people at the front so that they could yell for us. There was a time where, I don't know, I think there's a bunch of people who live deep into those woods that probably live there forever. But the Appalachian Mountains are beautiful. It's beautiful nature, but you go deep into that, it's you get in a completely different territory. I mean, I'm pretty sure other people have different experiences with that stuff. I remember hearing people that lived there just tell me all these stories, what not to do, and won't listen to certain things, and if you hear people's names, or if you hear your name getting called, or if you hear whistling in the woods, or don't whistle in the woods, older people would tell me that stuff because they lived there for so long. In the summer of 2020, me and a group of my friends went to go camp. It was my grandpa's acres, it was his property and stuff, right? I thought it was a fun idea. I wasn't really scared that much because we're all in the group. Or we decided to go to the house that's right over the trees. That was actually our old neighbor that passed away maybe 3-4 years prior. Still nothing has changed. In front of his house is it's metal police wire. All of the trees have wiring stuff going all through it, right? And we decided to walk over there and explore because there's a rusty barn that's extremely creepy, and it has 2 levels to it inside. Also a shed that has a bunch of baby toys and baby dolls and creepy stuff right there. It was 1 a.m. too. Figured out how to get into the house. The house was it was sealed off by wood in the back. So he opened the wood and then they went and then opened the doors for us. We got inside and I told my friend not to take anything. We explored, we were looking around. There's an attic. One weird thing though, in the attic, there was a red light that was on, and I thought that was really strange, and I pointed out to my friends, but they didn't really pay attention to it. But it was a red light, a glowing light in the attic. There was these golden golf clubs and I think a golden gun or something, and my friend was bro, what if we take this and then he gets all money? And I was no, don't do that. That guy's probably gonna come back and haunt you. And I was joking with him with that too. I was kidding. He ended up taking it without me knowing. And as we were walking out, there's a light that hangs down from the ceiling that you can literally just unscrew and pop back in basically. But for some reason, as we walked past it, it fell and shattered on the ground, and all of us turned around like it scared the shit out of us. And then we opened there's the door, there's another door and then a screen door. We opened all of them and we locked them and stuff and closed it and everything. We're walking out, and as we literally got to the bottom of the steps, the doors literally open. And like we heard the doorknob open, like unlock open, and then all of the doors opened at once. And my friend got so scared that he grabbed me and threw me towards the doors. I don't know why he did that, and ran. One of my friends ran into the police wire that was in front of the house. He ran into it so hard he did a full backflip and knocked the wind out of himself. So he's crawling. My friend has to pick him up because of what's happening. All of us are just sprinting out of the woods and stuff like that, and then we finally make it to the street. Oh yeah, another thing too, my uncle has autism, and he also, when he was younger, he I guess he took like something, and then like his brain got messed up. Well, he came up to me one time, right? Because like I'm closest to him. He's not close to anybody else in the family, but he's closest to me. So me and him talk to each other. He's a lot older too. He's like 38 maybe. But he came up and told me that he kept hearing things that made him want to go to the house that we were just at, right? And he went over there. He went inside the house, and he found that was in the house, right? And he was telling me that the TV was talking to him, that he wasn't going to listen to the TV anymore. And I guess it was like a TV at the house, the bandit house. He said he was listening to it, and he didn't want to listen to it anymore because it was scaring him, because it was talking to him or something. And then he came back and he told me that, and I was like, what the, like, that's creepy as hell. And obviously most of the family doesn't believe him with stuff like that, just because of like his diagnosis or something like that. But I know him well enough to like understand when he lies about things and doesn't, but he seemed to be telling the truth. So I don't know. That was pretty creepy to me.
It was the summer of 2004, and my family was supposed to vacation in Maine. My father was stuck in meetings though, so he was going to have to come up from Manhattan a few days after us. My mom wanted to drive up. It was super annoying at the time, but we didn't have a choice, and my brother, sister, and I loaded into the car and started the drive. I was about 14 at the time. The drive was uneventful, but there were various delays, and we ended up getting in a lot later than we originally planned. Because of this, the owners of the house we were renting had turned in for the night, and we weren't able to get a hold of them to get the keys. My mom was unfazed, but decided she wanted lobster, so we went to one of our favorite spots. She called my dad to see if he could make us reservations at a hotel. We were enjoying lobster while a guy came up and started chatting with my mom. I figured it was just a friendly local making conversation. During this, my dad calls my mom, and my mom excuses herself to speak to him. Apparently, all the hotels were booked for the night. Go figure, it was the height of vacation season in Maine. The plan was for us to drive to the nearest town just to find somewhere to stay until we could pick up the keys to our vacation home. Apparently the local had been listening in to my mom's conversation and came back over once she got off the phone. I want to say there was nothing outwardly off about him. He was preppy, clean-cut, unassuming, and fit in with the clientele. He told my mom that he had a big home and a big guest house that we were more than welcome to stay at and that his wife wouldn't mind. Immediately, my reaction was fuck that. No way in the world was I staying at a random dude's house in creepy Maine in the dark. My mom, doing her due diligence, determined this guy was legit. He said he was in finance, and my mom was an investment banker, and they chatted enough for my mom to determine that he wasn't totally full of it. I called my dad hysterical, and he said I was overreacting and that I needed to get out of the city more and accept that sometimes people are just nice. So my brother, sister, and I got into our car and followed him back to his house. The guest house was really nice, fully furnished, but the beds were oddly placed. They were right under the window in each room. It just seemed out of place at the time. Anyway, fast forward, we were all getting ready to go to bed. My mom hears a knock at the door, and it's the guy. He said he just wanted to check to make sure we got settled. Cool, nice thing to do. But about 30 minutes later, he comes back to check again. At this point, my mom was like, "Thanks, we're good. We will stop by the house in the morning to say thank you." Fast forward another 30 to 45 minutes. I can't sleep. I'm terrified. We hear this rustling, which is odd because the guest house was nowhere around trees or close proximity to bushes that might cause such noise. At this point, I see my mom wide awake and look up at the window, like motioning towards the window with her eyes. Let me add, none of the windows had curtains. The guy said it's because his wife was in the process of redecorating. When I looked up, there was a male figure just standing. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I don't know how long he was there for. When he walked away, my mom waited a bit and then told us to get our stuff together. She wasn't messing around, and we had my dad on the phone at this point. He was pretty much flipping out at my mom about something, but I didn't hear what. My mom said she was going to put stuff in the car and to follow her out. This was around 2 a.m. when we got into the car and we pulled around to the front of the main house so my mom could return the key and say thanks and get the f*** out of there. However, when we got to the front, all the lights were off. Not just all the lights, but it looked like no one had been home. The porch light, table lamp in front of the windows, everything was black. Also, the 2 cars were gone, the local's car and what we had presumed to be his wife's car. After seeing this, my mom at this point was pretty unsettled. Said we're leaving, and we proceeded to drive to the gate. The gate at the end of the driveway had been deadbolted and shut from the inside. It wasn't a super strong gate, so my dad said rev it. We were in a big SUV, and just to get out of there. We drove straight back to New York City, not speaking the entire time. We have never returned back to Maine, and my parents refused to speak about it. I asked a family member one night about it when he was drunk, and all he said, "They didn't tell you? The actual owners of the house were on vacation." I'm assuming my mom and dad followed up with the local authorities and figured that out, but never told us. I don't know who that man was, or what he had planned that evening.
This girl spent a night alone in the Appalachian Mountains in a cabin by herself and had one of the creepiest experiences I have ever heard. Kimberly grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, and she was taught at a very young age not to mess with the woods. Not in a cute bears and snakes way, but in like a don't whistle at night, don't answer voices you don't recognize, don't invite things in a kind of way. She did not take this seriously until this happened. Last fall, she stayed in a cabin that her uncle owned up in the mountains. No neighbors and no cell service, not unless you stood on the porch just right. It was meant to be quiet. First night was normal. The second night, she's just chilling when suddenly she hears knock, knock, knock. It wasn't on the door though. It came from the woods. 3 slow knocks. Someone tapping on a tree with their knuckles. She freezes at this point because it was well after midnight and there was no reason for anybody to be out there. So she tells herself it's an animal, a woodpecker maybe, but it didn't sound right. It sounded intentional. But while she's sitting there trying to convince herself that this is nothing, she suddenly hears Kimberly. She doesn't answer. She remembers what her grandmother used to say. If you hear your name in the woods at night, no, you didn't. Then she hears it again. Knock, 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 but closer this time. Then it stopped right outside the cabin, and that's when she hears it. Breathing. She said this wasn't heavy breathing, it was slow, patient breathing. Almost like whatever was out there knew she was listening. And then buzz, her phone buzzes, even though she has no service. And the screen lights up from a notification from an app that she doesn't remember downloading. There's no icon, there's just a text, and it says, "You're too far from home." At this point, she feels sick. Her hands are shaking so badly, she almost dropped her phone. Then buzz, another notification appeared. It said, "Open the door. It's cold." And that's when she notices it. This smell. Rotting leaves, wet dirt, and something metallic. And we know what that smells like. So she backs away from the door at this point, slowly, and the breathing just suddenly stops. Then she hears footsteps on the porch, but they didn't sound like regular footsteps. She said that the only thing that she could think of, like, to describe this was that whatever this was had too many joints. Like it was just learning how to walk. And as she's thinking this to herself, bzzz, Her phone buzzes again. Notification pops up and it says, "You looked at me through the window earlier." She hadn't. She knew that she hadn't. But when she checked the window, she saw handprints on the glass. She said that these handprints were not like human handprints. She said that the fingers were too long and they were bent in ways that fingers cannot bend. Then suddenly outside on the wood sliding right next to her head, she hears, something is scratching the wood sliding. And then it spoke right against the door. It said, "I sound like someone you trust." And it did. It sounded like her uncle. She doesn't know how long she stood there, staring at the door, shaking, telling herself not to open it. Every instinct inside of her was screaming that if she opened that door, something was going to come in that would not leave. This lasted all night long until finally sunrise comes and she hears footsteps slowly walking away from the cabin and into the woods. The smell disappeared. Oh, that is weird. I smell something weird right now. Oh, that is super weird. I smell something so weird right now. This is me talking. Anyway, as soon as it was light out, she left. She said that before she drove away, she noticed something carved into the porch railing, and it looked very deep and very old. She thinks it was a warning of some sort because it said, "If it knows your name, it's already been inside once." She said that she has never to this day been back to that cabin, and still to this day at night, she will not respond to her name, even if it sounds like somebody she loves.
One wearing a camper only, with an extended awning out. And that's all that we're living in. That's all that we have around us. We are running on generator power only. We do not get our power in till like April of 2023. 3, we only have one cat, and you might be lucky if she's 5 pounds. Okay. And we do not have Wi-Fi or anything like that either. Okay. Just some things to remember. Okay. So it's about 11 o'clock at night and me and my husband are watching a movie. The boys are asleep. Okay. And we got our windows in our camper, and outside of our window where we sit at the table and watch movies and stuff, there is a table outside that window that our cat tends to sit on. Her name is Haynes. Yes. Like the socks and underwear. That's another story. But anyways, moving on. Okay, so we're sitting there watching a movie and we hear what we think is Haynes on the roof. And my husband's like, "My gosh, she's got fat. Listen to how heavy she is." And I'm just, like thinking, my goodness, what has she been eating out here? Well, all of a sudden he looks at the window and he's like wide-eyed pointing. And I'm looking out, seeing what he's looking at. And I'm going, oh God. Haynes is on the table with this look on her face. Whatever's up there is not Haynes. And she hears it and she's freaked out. She's looking at us for help. So immediately the first thing that I go to do is to go crack the door, which my husband's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't want my cat to get eaten. I love my cat." So I go to try to let her in. I crack the door like maybe that much enough to get her little body in. She don't move. She don't want to come in. She stays on that table. She is like petrified in fear. She does not want to move. Okay. And the whole time we're hearing this thing, it walks from one end of the camper, stops, turns around and walks to the other end of the camper. We never hear no growling, no purring, no scratching, no nothing. You don't hear nothing but these heavy footsteps. I mean, it almost sounds like humans up there is how heavy this is. Okay, so we're thinking either mountain lion, which I was like, oh God, don't be a mountain lion. Then I was like, okay, maybe a bobcat. And I really don't want that either. Then I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't want nothing to be up there. But unfortunately, something is up on the roof causing a lot of heavy footsteps. And even my cat is paranoid. She's freaking out and we're freaking out. So we're like shutting all the windows, making sure they're locked, shutting the door, Yeah, it was a little terrifying, especially with we're only running on generator power and no Wi-Fi. So guess what? No signal out here. That was fun. So instead of going and turning the generator off, we just let the generator run all night long until it runs out of gas. Cause None of us are brave enough to go outside to see what it is. So we wait till the next day, get up the next day, and try to go out there and see if there's any signs of anything. Nothing. We even get the ladder and climb up on top of the roof to see if there's any prints or anything. Nothing. It's like nothing was ever up there, but yet there was something up there. And this doesn't go, okay, what I'm about to tell you, this does not go with the story that I just told you. This is actually a few days later, but it's just odd. Okay, my cat was raised an indoor cat. Okay, all cats can climb trees. We know that, okay, obviously. Well, one morning, I'm going to say about 3 or 4 days after that experience that I just told you about, we come out here and we hear Haynes meowing, but we can't find her. We look and we look, me and my husband and the boys were looking everywhere. We can't find her. Okay, but we can hear her. So we're looking around. I'm looking up a tree, still don't see her. So I look even higher up. There is a tree in our yard, and she's at the very tippy top of it. And I mean like a 40-foot tree, give or take. She's all the way at the top. There's no way that we can get up there to get her down. There's no ladder. We can't climb. So she is stuck up there until we can get her down. So it takes about 3 hours for her to come down. And I'm thinking whatever was on our roof that night might have come back and might have chased her all the way up that tree. And she went up so far that apparently something gave up. So that's just one of the strange and spooky stories that is in this area.
I am actually frightened to share this story, but this literally happened last night. I have barely slept. Okay. So last night I'm on FaceTime with my girlfriend. We're both in the film industry, and we're trying to like watch a film together, have a little date night. And it's pretty late at this point because I had to work at the bar last night. And so we're doing that thing where you're like, what second are you on? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Trying to sync up. And as we're watching the movie, we're about halfway through. And I just froze because I heard a noise in my house. This is in between like midnight and 1 a.m. Okay. And I am pretty sure I heard a knock on the door. And I'm immediately like, nope, no. I'm not even going near that. I'm not acknowledging it. Because you don't acknowledge a knock on the door after midnight, okay? Unless you're expecting, but no. And then immediately my TV starts glitching, pixelated, and then it was like going dark when I tried to restart the movie. And I kept trying to restart it, and it was like no visual, but just audio. And mind you, I got this TV within the last year. It's new, so it shouldn't be doing that. It's only messed up once before, but it wasn't like that. It just seemed like connected. So then, seeing me freaked out, you know what my girlfriend says to me? She says, did I ever tell you about the time that I ran into a skinwalker? No. And now's not the time. Why would you say that out loud? See, I whispered it because I know better. Just like, why would you say that? We're trying to calm me out of that situation because I was looking around for like, what do I have to protect myself? Also, how do you protect yourself against something like that? And it starts raining. And I'm like, okay, it's raining. It's probably fine. And then I hear a noise. And I'm like, did you hear that? And she's like, is that your dogs? And I was like, no. I am pretty certain at this point that it was an owl because it sounded like, hoo, 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 kind of like that. It only happened twice in a row and then nothing. I'm not about to look out the window. Not about to. Nope. I lit sage and did a circle of protection around me. I couldn't get my TV to cooperate for the rest of the night. So just tried to go to bed. I mean, I was wide awake, so I didn't go to bed till almost 3 a.m. So I barely slept. Now, you would think this would be the end of the story, right? Today, out of the situation, I'm like, let me tell a couple friends about my creepy night that I've had. So I text my 3 besties with a voice memo that's obviously the length of a podcast. And my best bestie, her and I always joke about being witchy sisters and being really connected and our intuition just being like this. So she hears my voice memo and she goes, Lauren, I literally had a dream last night that somebody told me they let a skinwalker into their house. What the? She said it was so realistic. She thought someone at the party she was at last night told her that. At this point, I'm like, I hope you were just feeling my energy, scared about it, and just picked up on it somehow, if we are so connected like that, and not anything else. But now I've had 2 different people mention something about that when it was already in my mind, of course. So, bro, like in the future, if this happens again, how do I protect myself? There was no whistling. It could have just been my mind, crazy, whatever. It was just too much synchronicities. So, help.
The creepiest story I've heard out of the Appalachian Mountains was that of Jack and Betty Harrison. Now, Jack and Betty had been married for 20 years. They had 4 children and lived in a double-wide trailer. Now, Jack was a miner and his wife Betty was a waiter. And they really didn't have the salary to upgrade to a better home. And this double-wide trailer that they lived in was kind of too small for their family. Well, one day, Jack gets a promotion at the mine and ends up making more money. So, for the first time, he buys his wife and family their first home. And it was this, just nice little 3-bedroom ranch-style home in a rural area with a couple acres of land. And they think they're going to go and, start this new chapter in their life. Well, day 1, Jack and Betty and the family, they pull up to the house. And the first thing they notice when they get out of the car is that there are all of these deer just standing in the yard. And they're just staring at them as they are going into the house and moving stuff in, and they do not move. Well, Jack thought this is weird because he figured, they would get spooked and run away, but he just assumed that maybe the prior people who lived there were feeding them. So they end up getting everything moved in for the day, and the kids are upstairs playing in their new rooms. The dogs are outside kind of running around in the woods, and it starts to get nightfall. So Jack goes to the front door, and as soon as he opens the front door, the dogs run inside like they're scared. And he thought that's weird because usually he almost has to drag the dogs inside when they get a chance to run around out in the woods. And right as the dogs ran past him, he starts hearing this loud howling coming from the woods. And he said it was almost like, a howl, but it was not like an animal, but something more mechanical. And he said he heard this just a couple times, and then it would stop. Day 2. Jack gets up in the morning, gets a cup of coffee. He goes outside the house. And when he goes onto his front porch, he discovers 13 bird carcasses laying on his porch. And he thinks, that is really odd. Sometimes birds run into the house, but why are there 13 birds here placed just perfectly on the porch? So he kind of just, shakes it off, and he removes these carcasses from the porch. Fast forward later that night, he goes to call his dogs in for the night. Except his dogs don't respond. And he calls them again. They don't come. So Jack goes out, gets a flashlight, and he's kind of looking through the woods, yelling for his dogs, calling for them. And as he's walking through the woods, he can hear something moving alongside him. And when he would start walking, it would start walking. And when he would stop, it would stop. So Jack was like, maybe they'll come back in the morning. I'm like, this is kind of freaking me out. I'm going back to the house. So he goes back home. Day 3. They wake up the next day and still can't find the dog. They're going to the woods, calling for the dogs. They are nowhere to be found. Later that night, they all go to sleep except for Jack. Jack is sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden, he sees his wife walk down past the hallway to the front door, open the front door, and walk out the door. So he's like, that's weird. Where is she going this late at night? So Jack gets up and he starts following his wife, Betty. And he can see her walking in the yard. And she starts to walk into the woods. Now, Betty just has a nightgown on. She doesn't have any shoes or anything else except for this nightgown. Jack starts following her into the woods. And they get, a good couple 100 feet into the woods, and Jack is like, yo, Betty, what are you doing? Betty doesn't respond. She just keeps walking. And finally, Betty stops right in the middle of the woods next to this giant stone that is just sitting there. And then Betty just turns her head and looks up. And just kind of like freezes in that position. And so Jack's yelling, Betty, what's wrong? Why aren't you responding? Like, what's going on? And finally, Betty snaps out of it. And she comes to and is like, what am I doing out in the woods? She's like very confused, has no idea how she's ended up in the woods. And Jack's like, you walked out here. Like, what are you talking about? And so he gets her and brings her back inside and makes sure she's all right. And then she goes to bed. Day 4. Once again, they are searching for the dogs. They can still not find them anywhere. Jack talks to his wife, Betty, about what happened the night before. And she said, I had this, all I remember is I had this weird dream that there was a spaceship and it was taking me up into the sky. And then I woke up and I was in the middle of the woods. So Jack, is trying to like rationalize maybe you were just, some kind of sleepwalking or something. That night, when everyone goes to bed, Jack goes to bed as well. And all of a sudden, he hears his wife get up. And she starts walking out of the bedroom. The kids right now are coming out of their bedroom. And they're following the mom. And Jack's yelling at them like, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? What's going on? And they don't say anything. And they all walk out the front door. And so Jack runs out the door after him, and he's trying to grab the kids, and he's trying to grab his wife and shake them like to get their attention. And they just keep on walking into the woods. And, finally they all end up at that rock again, and they turn their head up. And they just look up to the sky. And so Jack's like yelling at them, what's going on? Come on, guys, come to. And finally, boom, they like all just snap out of it, and they're like all confused once again how they got out into the woods. So, like, Jack is like, right now is like terrified at this point because he doesn't know what is going on with his family and why are they walking out into the woods. So day 6, once again, they still can't find the dogs. And Jack asked his wife and his kids, like, what happened last night? Why did you guys go out into the woods? And they said, we had this dream that we were getting taken up by this spaceship, and then we woke up and we were in the woods. And so Jack's like, you know what, I'm keeping a close eye on you guys tonight and making sure you don't go outside and stuff. And so the whole family is kind of at this point really terrified. But they all sleep in the same bedroom that night. Jack's sitting in a chair watching them. And once again, 12:30 at night, the whole family, except for Jack, gets up and they walk out of the house. They start walking into the woods. No response. He can't get them to come out of this trance that they're almost in. They walk into the woods right to that same spot where the rock is, and they all put their heads up. And so as Jack's yelling at them, Jack begins to realize, he is not alone. It's not just him and his family. As he's looking around in the woods, he sees all of these black shadows standing around him. And they start moving their hands, beckoning him. And they say, come with us, come with us. And they're whispering, come with us, come with us. And all of a sudden he hears barking. And he sees the shadow of what look like his dogs. And he's calling his dogs come here, come here. But they won't leave these people that are standing in the woods saying, come here, come here. Finally, the family snaps to, and he's like, come on, we got to get back to the house right away. And they all run back to the house. And when they get back to the house, they, are all just at this point, we're not staying here anymore. So they hadn't sold their double wide trailer yet. So they end up going back to their double wide trailer. The next day, day 7, right, Jack calls up the realtor and it's is there, some kind of deal with this house? What is going on? My family has been doing all this weird stuff and they went out into the woods, and the realtor says, look, I'll be honest with you. I was just trying to sell the house and make money. But there was a family that lived there before you, and all of them disappeared. The whole family, disappeared. And they never knew what happened to them. But a lot of folks said that they were acting strange before they disappeared, and they kept going out into the woods at night. But, no one knew what had happened to them. And so Jack, when he hears this, he's like, yeah, we're not going back to this house again.
Okay, so alarms are going off and the rooster's going nuts. What is that?
It's probably that coyote.
Right there. What the?
Is that coyote?
No.
That's not a coyote. That's a person.
Where's the dog?
Wow.
Well, you better go now.
What the f, man? What the f is that?
I don't know. There's the dog. Why is she in her freaking pen?
Look.
What the? Oh my God. Yeah, but you see where it's standing?
Yeah, it's looking in the window at you.
It's at her window. What?
It's a good way to get shot in the face.
And the dog's just staring.
So why is the damn dog not barking?
Oh my God.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Don't forget to subscribe and like for more content. And as always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.